Box Productions.
It's a lyric in this song say, can't let a rat do me like they done my nigga Thundercat. Baymac. On my mama, it's crazy to me how your boy Shitty Cuz is in the news trying to file a motion to get his the grand jury indictment hearing. I believe he trying to get the transcripts sealed, claiming that somehow the transcripts being made public would adversely affect his ability to receive a fair trial. And now it's crazy because in the criminal element, when it comes to where the law is concerned, naturally, typically through the years, historically, you most commonly find yourself, if you are an individual such as myself, analyzing the situation from the perspective of the criminal, other than molester, rapist, or some type of queerdo. If he was somebody getting money or involved in some type of illegal activity that didn't disrespect innocent people, when you get caught up in analyzing the situation, people like myself, we kind of like analyze it from the perspective and almost rooting for the bad guy, kind of like playing cops and robbers, want to be the robbers. So knowing everything that we have to know about the scenario and it being on camera where it's not much guessing to do, and knowing the caliber of the individual that was victimized that day, it's kind of hard to understand how, first of all, it's impossible to analyze the situation from the perspective of the criminal, because even amongst our arena, there are do's and don'ts. So when somebody is in such a violation of a major don't, the way he did the, first of all, you were reading that, and then when, I ain't even got to verbalize exactly what happened. But now this dude is trying to utilize the law. Mind you, this is somebody who ran and turned themselves in because they were scared of these streets. I guess you think it's blown over. Or perhaps you go through all these motions just to prolong the time of you being sentenced, because there's no way on God's green earth, just based on the footage, oh boy, it's finna get from up under that. And it's crazy to say that, because even as I read this story, when they refer to him, they say alleged on camera. And in light of everything that we've been focusing on since George Floyd, it's crazy how George Floyd was murdered. And then in response to his murder, in defense of the officers, a lot of people would speak of the fact that he had a counterfeit bill, almost mentioning that in justification for what he suffered. And I don't hear the word alleged thrown around when they discuss the $20 bill that George Floyd allegedly possessed, as much as I hear it in this story about everything that was captured on camera. But anyway, accused Nipsey Hussle killer Eric Holder and his lawyer have requested to have transcripts from his grand jury hearing sealed until after the trial to ensure a fair and impartial ruling. It's been over a year since the murder of Nipsey Hussle, yet the trial for his alleged murderer, Eric Holder, is just getting underway. As Holder's day in court gets closer and closer, it looks like his legal team is doing their best to keep the public at bay in terms of what's being said during current legal proceedings. A new report from the Los Angeles Times explains that Holder and his public defender, Lo Win Young, pushed for L.A. County Superior Court Judge Robert J. Perry to seal transcripts from the grand jury until after trial. They made the argument that public release of the records could affect their case so much so that witnesses and experts might decide not to come forward in Holder's defense. Wow. That's crazy. The Times attorneys had their own rebuttal to claim, though, arguing that Holder does not offer a shred of evidence to justify delaying those records from going public, whether it's been months or years. Here, the modest pretrial publicity in this case does not even remotely compare with the publicity in the Martha Stewart trial, the Manson family trial, the John DeLorean trial, the Watergate trials, or the Abscan trials, Times attorney argued in the filing. Yet, in all those cases, courts rejected the defendants' arguments that pretrial publicity had interfered with their right to fair trial. This court should do the same. The indictment was unsealed May 21. Unless there is an objection, transcripts from a grand jury hearing are made public 10 days after they are provided to the defendant or his attorney. The transcripts will offer a more detailed glimpse into the prosecution's case against Holder. The records in question center around the 23-member grand jury panel that returned a 6-count indictment, 1 count of murder, 2 counts each of attempted murder and assault with a firearm, and 1 count of possession of a firearm by a felon. After being presented evidence during a 3-day hearing back in May, Eric Holder, who pleaded not guilty, faces life in prison and if convicted for the murder of Nipsey Hussle. He's expected to return back in court later this month, so we'll keep you all updated as more updates arrive. R.I.P. to Nip forever. So dude back up against the wall. Now he done turned into a legal beagle instead of just drinking his soup. But don't often find myself wishing for the bad guy to get his issue, but I don't care how he get it. Whether they give it to him and give him that Elioli, I mean, I ain't tripping on that. I'm just saying, I know the Rips better not let Cuz walk the main line. Oh, my mama. I don't think that's going to be the place for him. Cuz going to have to PC up. But if he so happen to beat it, it's all hood to the game. Cut him free. I don't think it's a place Cuz could hide in the world. Oh, my mama. They get him up out of there somehow, which I doubt. Don't nobody get to kill one of our own on camera and get away with it, except members of law enforcement or Caucasians. That's why it makes no sense for people to, when you hear people protesting and speaking out against police brutality, it's like apples and oranges for somebody to say, oh, why you don't speak out against black on black crime? We have yet to see an officer have to jump through the hoops that Eric Holder is apparently having to jump through for his freedom. It'd be real easy.
Snakewood Nip Hustle. Big shout out to my nigga SPI, Spotter Low. You know I'm in the black box, had to come through, tap in, show love one time. Yeah, y'all make sure y'all subscribe. Stay tuned. All that.